but prayer to begin.
Okay, we just got out of worship, so my plan for devotions is just to say a simple prayer. So, Lord, we thank you for this congregation. We thank you for each person gathered here. We pray for renewal and for life to be poured into us through your Spirit. Be with us this day as we consider these things in our annual meeting, and we pray for your blessing. And we pray that your Spirit may be wafting through and within each of us. In Jesus' name, amen.
I want to welcome everybody to the meeting. Thank you all for staying and coming to the meeting. And I'd like to thank all the volunteers that keep the church going every year. And that probably involves most everybody that's here, so I'm not going to name everybody because I might miss somebody. So thank you all. And the next item is the agenda. I'd like to, right now there's nothing under new business. I'd like to just add a couple of items to consider. We can discuss at the time that they come up. One is with regard to the labyrinth, we have over $16,000 set aside, and the cost is probably going to be over $20,000. I'd like to consider using interest money from the endowment, which is what this money is meant for, to pay whatever the difference might be so that we get the labyrinth covered so we can get it completed and done and erected and paid for this summer. And the second item, apparently at one time there was a reason to have separate bank accounts for the general fund and the benevolence fund. It just creates additional bookkeeping at this point in time, and just to talk about possibly just combining those two accounts. They were one account at one time, and then some time back they got separated. With that, the agenda is on page 2 of the book that everybody has a copy of, I assume. So I'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Jessica, is there a second? Second. Bob? Okay. Next, if we could approve the minutes of last year's annual meeting, which was on May 16th. The minutes are on page 4, and I don't know that it's necessary to have someone read them. We probably all scanned them already. So unless there's any question, any additions or corrections, I tender a motion to approve the minutes as presented in the report. Moved by John. Seconded by Marty. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carried. Do we vote on the agenda? Yes. Okay. Okay, then there are the ballots. They're on pages 5 and 6. And Steve just came up and gave me some additions and some changes. So if you look at your 2022 ballot, the church council is the same as presented. The auditing committee, there's only one needed. Joanne is on a couple of others already, so she asked me to remove her name from there, so there'll just be Dana. Christian Ed is as presented. Head usher needed one, and Jeska just agreed or said that she would be the fourth and necessary member for head usher. Um, Memorial Committee is okay. The Nominating Committee, we need 4, and there weren't any, but at this time, yeah, there, Julie is on here, and Yeska agreed to be on the Nominating Committee, and also Steve Blomquist. So there would be 3 for the Nominating Committee at this point. The Personnel Committee, there were 2 there, and there's only 1 needed. Jessica asked to have her name removed, so the only person there is Lorraine. Property Committee, the Resolution Committee are both full. Stewardship Committee is 1 short. Worship and Music Committee is okay. Gustavus Adolphus Representative, Steve and Lori Bloomquist. Luther Points delegates, 2 are needed, and Joanne's name is on there. And Chris Coran has agreed to be the 2nd person needed as a Luther Point delegate. Lutheran Social Services Ambassador, there's 1 needed, and that's Mark Westlander. And we don't have any Synod delegates at this point. So first I would ask if anyone wants to volunteer for one of the positions or wants to nominate somebody for any one of these positions. I'd ask for that now at this point. Raise your hand. Seeing none, there's no contested ballots at this point, so we probably can just have a show of hands rather than have a written ballot. I guess I would ask at the same time as a motion to accept the 2022 ballot, that with the open items, that the church council would have the authority to appoint people to those positions if they find somebody that would be willing to do that. So I'd entertain a motion for somebody to. Norm? Is there a second? We're going to take a vote by voice vote or raising your hands. All in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed, do the same. Seeing none, the motion carried. Next are the 2021 resolutions, 2022 resolutions. And I am relatively new here, so I'm not sure if in the past somebody read these resolutions before they were acted upon. Somebody needs to tell me. Who was up here before? Norm?
What?
Used to read these resolutions?
Used to, yes, they have. I don't know that that's necessary. There's nothing new on there
Okay.
than past years. But from what I read, it just seems to be the same routine ones on there.
Okay. Well, in the interest of brevity, everybody has a book. They can read them. I don't think there's anything controversial in the resolutions. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the 2022 resolutions of Immanuel Lutheran Church Congregation as presented on page 7 of the report.
I so move.
I didn't.
I so move.
Okay. Diane, you get that? Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same sign? Hearing none, motion carries. The next item is the proposed 2022 budget. That's on page 8.
So at the top, it should be changed to 2022, not 2021.
Yep. Okay, this budget was put together and approved by the church council. Just a couple things to point out, which are are different. I mean, we can look at the totals at the bottom, and the proposal for this year is less than the proposed budget for last year. But some of the differences are to conserve on the budget. There were several volunteers that stepped forward to do the custodial work, and they've been doing a good job, and consequently their volunteers not being paid, so that item is out of the budget, and that's a significant part of what the difference is. There are obviously everybody knows that we're searching for a permanent pastor. Pastor Matt's been doing a great job for us in the interim. But we thought we would put in figures which would cover pastor that we would be looking for at this point. And there are several items on here which relate to the pastor. The first one is automobile expense at the top. There's a pastoral book allowance that's $65,011. Continuing education, $65,171. The pastor's salary, $66,001. Health and pension, $66,100. And pastor's Social Security offset, $66,200. The total of those items total between $86,000 and $87,000. And so that's essentially what we'd be looking for. There are guidelines that are given to us by the Synod, and this is possibly more than a seminary graduate would get, but this would allow the call committee to consider hiring someone that's had some experience, and maybe someone we don't, well, my personal feeling was we don't want to set the budget at an amount that we're getting somebody that couldn't get a job anyplace else. We need a pastor that's going to help grow the congregation, because obviously from looking around we know that we need to do what we can to increase our membership, and I think that can be done. I think that's all the comments I would have to make on the budget. Norm told me he wanted to say something. Here, I know you speak pretty loud, but we're on TV.
I don't know if I need this, but all right. My concern was a couple concerns on the budget, that I had. One, obviously, is I don't know that we should be playing our card on a salary for the minister when we probably won't have a minister this coming year, is my guess. I've been involved in budgets before, and frankly, I was always happy when we came to the bottom line of the budget and it was less or about the same as the year before. And this is less than the year before when our total budget is up there. But I don't also see playing our card, you know, if it's a poker game, why are we playing our cards ahead of time? I would like to see the salary for the minister the same as it was last year at this point, because I hate to see a new minister coming out of the Synod or whatever looking at this and was expecting in their mind, boy, if I make $50,000 a year, that would be wonderful as a new minister, and then look at our book and say, wow, look what they're willing to pay. You know, that's why I object to having it either on the ballot as more money. I would like to see it as a negotiable thing on our budget, or at least the same as last year. Then the other concern that I have, very minor, is obviously we're saving a lot of money on the custodial thing, but I was a little bit surprised to see only 2% increase for people like Momo and stuff, and everybody knows what an asset Momo is here and stuff, and obviously Social Security, we got a nice increase, and I would like to see maybe that up to a 6% increase, you know, for Momo and Pat and different people that work for the church, rather than 2%, have that increased, And that's just my feelings on it, okay?
Yep. We'll discuss this first. I forgot to bring up one thing that I was gonna mention before that, and that is the 68,602 is church natural gas. And it was, budget was 4,500. Last year, we spent slightly more than that, but as everybody knows, the price of propane has gone up drastically. And we knew that when we set this budget, so we set it for significantly more. But at this point, with the bills that have been there in the last couple of months, I don't know that that would cover it. The bill for, Mark is here, I think, but the bill for the last couple of months has been, what, around $1,800 a month just for the propane?
The last month was 1,800, before that was 1,250.
Yeah, so November was 1,250, December was 1,800, and this hasn't been any warmer. So that would be another item to look at, I guess, when we're talking about this budget. So, yes,
Another question?
yes,
The property insurance line,
yes,
on 2021, it was 7,402, but the proposed for 20,
yeah,
for 20,
yeah, I'm glad you brought,
for 22 is a
Yeah,
number
there-
of $1,000 less.
yep, there's a question about the property insurance. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I should have said something about this too. We got an exact figure of $6,250 from the agent. And then after we prepared the budget, we got a letter from the insurance company. They reevaluated things, and it went up about 20% over the year before. So that would make, it was over 8,000 or something. The agent was gonna try to check with other companies to see if we couldn't get a better rate. I think the reason, as I understood the letter that we got from the insurance company, was a question about the roofs on the church, and what condition they were in, because they asked how old the roof was, and the roof on the main part of the church is like 100 years old, and it's made out of slate, so the thing is, it's probably going to be there for another 100 years. And I think the roof is, fine on the new part of the building. So hopefully with that information, that we have a slate roof on the main part of the church, that will help the insurance agent get us a reduced rate.
Insurance companies have moved toward, at least with residents, they don't want, they're recognizing that people are often letting their roofs go until they have an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and then they collect on insurance to get a whole new roof. And what they're doing now is, I don't remember how they're changing it, but they're kind of penalizing you. Once your roof gets a certain age, and it, just from a maintenance standpoint, it should be repaired or replaced rather, they're changing rates for that. So that would
Yeah.
be a reason for that happening. They're tired of having people carry a 30, 40-year-old roof out until they get something that they have to pay for the whole thing. So
Right.
you can reduce it great.
Yeah. I don't know what the underwriting requirements are, but we'd only be talking about half of our roofs anyway, I think. So, anyway, we could change that number if people would feel more comfortable. We don't have a concrete figure, right now as to what it's going to be. So,
I would propose that we at least leave it the same as 2021. It probably is not going to be less.
okay. And that was like 7,402, so we want to round it off to 7,500? Okay. Why don't we consider these consider these one at a time. Anybody else have anything to say about the insurance line in the budget? Okay, let's, all in favor of amending the budget to increase the insurance amount to 7,500? We'll get back to that. We'll cover all the items.
Okay, we're taking them one at a time now?
Yes, one at a time. This is just the insurance. This is just the insurance. No,
We just want to get back to it.
we will. Okay, so what we're doing right now is considering changing the line item on the budget or the goals to 7,500. So is there a motion was made by Lynn? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Jessica? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign? Okay, that motion carries. Then next, we'll talk about the propane budget. That's 8,000. It's on 68,602, right at the bottom.
Can't we just finish the list and you're jumping
Well,
all over?
yeah,
How about going back to the first thing we talked about? There was a man that went up and talked.
yeah, we'll talk about it. I think that's going to be a longer conversation, and that's why I'm leaving it to the end. Okay, we're on line 68,602. Yeah, natural gas. Does anybody have an opinion as to whether or not that should be increased based upon the fact that we might be late? Mark suggests it should be 9,500.
Is that a suggestion or a motion?
Motion.
All right, second.
Okay,
One question during the discussion phase here. Mark, the figure of 2021 at 4,976. Does that include the $1,800 that was paid for the December bill?
Not at all.
No. Okay, that was the case. All right, thank you for clarifying.
okay, there's a motion. Was that 9,500, Mark?
Yes.
Motion to increase the natural gas budget goal item to 9,500.
My reasoning behind that was because originally we had thought 9,000 because we were estimating it being $1,250 a month. And the next month it was $1,800, which is $500 more in 1 month, so we're already $1,500 behind.
Okay, any further discussion on that motion? Was there a second, Mark? Yeah, that was a second. Any further discussion on that change to the budget, to the goals? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the goals will be changed for natural gas to 9,500.
Richard,
Yes,
since we're talking on the natural gas, on the television, they were reporting that even if your natural gas, propane, or whatever method of heating's going up, they're expecting electric to go up with it. So are we foreseeing any electrical increases? How has that been the last couple months?
That really hasn't changed. That I've noticed.
Because I expect that that's gonna take a jump too, even though it may not be our main source.
yeah. The usual process on electricity is electric companies have the authority to estimate an increase, but it has to go to the, and then they implement it, but it has to go to the state to get approved. So I think if there's an increase, they've already requested it. Okay, I think we're down to the proposed pastor's salary. And just so we know when we're talking about this, we're talking about goals or whatever. So I'm sure, does anybody else want to speak to that?
Pastor salary?
Yes, right,
I have a question.
yes,
When you talked to the Senate, did they give you an idea of what salaries are?
yes, there's, here, we'll. I think this mic is on.
Turn it on.
Oh. Button on the bottom.
Good job.
I have one thing to say about pastor's salary. If we're gonna lower the pastor's salary.
You're waiting for a mic.
Okay.
Low battery. Oh. It's useless. Can you just repeat the question?
Sure.
You gotta walk up there.
Yeah, well, people don't want to walk up here, it just won't get on TV, that's all. Sure, well, what we're going to be discussing is a pastor's salary and the related expenses related to that. In the meantime, Steve's probably going to fix our microphone. But somebody, Mark, you were,
I have, if we put the budget back to where it was in 2021 for pastor salary, 64,000, then we need to put the health pension back up to 14,000 rather than the 11,000. Because these were all estimates. Since we do not have a pastor and we're looking for a pastor, these were all estimates on what we have right now. Pastor Matt is not taking in pension right now. It's all going to salary only. That's one of the reasons for this change. So
yep,
if we drop his salary, we're gonna have to up the pension and health, which is kind of it's a misfigure to do it that way. Because
Okay,
pastor's salary, actually, we're flip-flopping it. When we get a new pastor in, the pastor may get a lower salary, but the pension is gonna go up. So
okay,
it's a wash.
I'll restate it on the microphone. What Mark says is that there are two items, 66002, not 66001, and 66100. Those two should be taken together to determine the pastor's salary because of the way the pensions have been treated in the last half of this year. So that would be the 2021 expense would be, the actual expense would be 78,500 approximately. And what's in the budget now is 80,000. Okay, any other comments?
Okay, so a thought on that is also, you're stating one. Isn't there a range you can have?
Yeah.
Instead of just promising them this kind of money and they see it.
Well, I mean,
We don't make that kind of money around here.
no. We do have money that people have given to the church as gifts, which I believe can be used to pay the pastor. Obviously, that isn't something that lasts forever, but it would be something that could be used in the interim. The thing is, that money is there, and we have it designated for specific purposes now. But if our membership keeps going down, eventually, if there's no congregation here, that money is just going to go where? I don't know where it's going to go. So it might as well be used to try to build the congregation up, and I think that that's a possibility if we get the right pastor. But I do agree that we could, we could make the budget the same as it was what we paid this year, because the congregation has to approve hiring the pastor in the long run anyway. But I think with the understanding that when it comes to the call committee, they would have the ability to negotiate. But if, Norm, as you say, if this would impede negotiations by someone thinking what they're gonna get just because we have it in here, I mean, I think we could put it at that amount that it was for last year, and with the understanding that the call committee would have the right to negotiate something to match the person that we're gonna need to come here.
Wouldn't it be about qualification as well?
Yes, that's what it's based on. The salary that's in here is based on someone that would have some experience. Yes.
But wouldn't you, now like for me, I go to work, I've got a range. I mean, I could be hired at this, I could be hired at that. So if we have a range, it's still, I'm not walking in knowing exactly what I'm gonna get paid. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
somewhere in this range, which I think for us having a specific dollar amount, we're committed to that instead of, what do they want? You may have somebody coming in, I'm looking, my expected salary I want is $55,000. Oh, sorry, we can't pay you that because we want to pay you $80,000.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
So I don't think that's not the way it works.
well,
The-
that's when
the-
you send out your letters, your resumes, that you're asking, this is what I want.
Yeah. I think that this, rightfully or wrongfully, the Senate puts out the recommendations. When somebody is looking for a job, those are the numbers they're looking at. So if they're coming out of the seminary, they're looking at that as like a base number. And if they've had experience of, yeah, no, but that has nothing to do with it. Unfortunately,
Has nothing to do with budget. You need a number on a budget, so you have a goal to shoot for. This does not commit you to anything in this box. This is an estimate of what you hope you're gonna spend, or you're gonna spend less. If you spend more out of one bucket, hopefully you make it up in another bucket. This is a number that you have to put on, so we can vote that this budget is within the realm of what we think we could possibly do. Not what we're gonna pay a pastor, not that is negotiable amount. This is what we would hope it would be or less. It's a budget
What-
number.
yeah,
It's
it,
not set in stone, it's not engraved in gold.
And the recommendations from Synod for salaries paid is higher than you might think. And those are recommendations. Our decision is, if we don't want to pay much to a pastor, we either have to pay someone with no experience, or we have to look at going to a half-time pastor. There are changes that have to be made, but it's exactly what you just said. As a starting point for the budget, we have to plug a number in. So if we find someone that we think will do great things to grow our congregation, but we have a small number approved in our budget, then what? We have to look, I think what Lori said is absolutely,
yeah. John?
this is a number we should be.
One of the examples that was brought to us, in the council was, I think it's St. Mark's in Wyoming, got a new pastor, and they, contracted with their pastor for 2 years at $120,000 a year. Now, I don't know what size membership they have. I do know that it was beyond what they could get paid typically. They took money from other areas to get him. I understand he was, two things, he's very experienced and very enthusiastic. And so they're hoping, as we hope, to get his growth in our church. The third thing that I think, again, is the city we're in includes many churches out in the city, and that includes in our recommendations in there. Like it or not, it has to be recommended.
When, yeah. Sure. 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 And as far as a range, I think, I don't remember looking at the guidelines, but I'm sure they go from 60,000 seminary graduate to 100,000 probably, maybe more. But Pastor, you wanted to?
Well, yeah. Ooh, shall I test it? You found some? Hello? All right. I'll go back. I just wanted to clarify a few things. We don't have anybody signed up for the Senate Assembly delegates. Okay, just keep that in mind. These salary guidelines are not recommendations from the Synod. They are resolutions that have been passed in the Senate Assembly, of which we are a part. Therefore, these guidelines are our guidelines. So it is very important that we have Senate Assembly delegates. I would expect to see people volunteering for that. It's actually fun.
We still there? Yep.
So, and the other thing, Norm brings up a good question, and I don't know what the answer is to it, but whether, what to put in there when you have an interim. I mean, it's going to be different for the regular pastor when they come, and how that's all worked out. It's almost got to be negotiation, I think, and I don't know what figure we should put in there, but speaking, if you're interested, just speaking as a pastor, if I were seeking a call in trying to evaluate the congregation, if I were, say I lived in Wisconsin, and I was looking for a call over here in Minnesota, I would have to call the bishop over here, and probably my own bishop in Wisconsin, because they're going to want a sort of a referral to know that I'm, not like a renegade that's causing all kinds of problems. But then they'll maybe say, well, we have this church that maybe would fit your gifts. They try to match gifts and needs with the congregation. And then the first thing I would do, I don't know if every pastor's this way, but online there is a you can find a congregation and then get a full trend report. And over the last 10 years, it shows what's happened to your attendance. It shows what's happened to your giving. And of particular interest to me, I usually, there's a figure in there, giving per confirmed member. And one of the questions that comes to my mind, if I were to be looking for a church, and I'm evaluating based on this data, what kind of church is this? What kind of people are these? Are they generous? Is their cup half full, or is it half empty? And that tells me, that question leads to questions about their outreach and how they're looking at what they're trying to accomplish. Are they reaching beyond their doors? Are they just a maintenance congregation that has no ambition beyond their own doors or their own people? Do they have any sense of outreach? And if it looks stingy, it's not a good sign in my eyes, because I'm using this data to evaluate whether this would be a place I'd want to go. And I guess my other worry is what Richard was talking about. With the right pastor, this church could be growing. But when you start cutting from full-time, I don't see it as possible. It's on the way to decline, I think, if we go less than full-time. That's my own opinion, and some maybe would differ, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a dynamite pastor that can just do wonders half-time. I don't know. But anyway, those are, I just wanted you to know, like, what this look like through a prospective pastor's point of view. So.
When I worked at Walmart Vision Center in St. Croix, my manager at that time belongs to Duranda Lutheran Church. They shared a pastor between 3 churches. You can see the issues we're having here in one church. This pastor could not handle the issues of 3 different churches. She just had to leave. And my manager from that store, she's on the church council there at her church. And now they're trying to get a pastor. They have an interim pastor that does one service a week, which means 2 of the churches have to be closed when he preaches at the one church. So it's every third week that a church is open for a service. And this is what happens when you go to a part-time pastor. You're going to have these kind of issues. And now they're trying to get a pastor, a full-time pastor, when they've shared 3 ways in the past. It's tough to go the one way and then back to the other. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, well,
I'm not sure how we got to that point, that we're talking about part-time. That wasn't even in discussion here.
It came up because I mentioned it as reducing salaries. If people are looking at seriously.
No, I'm not saying
wanting to
reducing, I'm
pay,
saying staying the same as last year. That was my point, not reducing, staying
Yeah.
the same.
But the issue coming out is that pastors are often paid more than what community people make. So it's a consideration of
Bob?
what your options are.
Let's not lose sight of what a budget is. A budget is just a plan. Just because there's a number on it doesn't mean that you have to expend every dime that's on there. The other side of it is, you budget $100 for stamps, and you spend 105, do you stop mailing things? No. I spent 40 years in finance for major corporations. We rebudgeted 2 or 3 times during the year because things change. Just because you have a number on there, that doesn't mean that you're going to make that the absolute number, right? It may have to be a bigger number. Find somebody that's just going to like this apart. A budget's a plan. So don't lose sight of that.
Yes.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is thank you for explaining things, guys. I think we don't communicate as well as we could. This is a one-year budget. Let's do the best we can, get the best pastor we can, whatever we gotta do, and then let's pay Momo more too.
Okay, that. Okay, well, it's always difficult to talk about things when they're unknown. I mean, we have no idea who we might be talking to as potential pastors, no idea what they're going to ask for. I mean, we can set it as the same as we budgeted last year, with the idea that if someone coming in, when the call committee starts talking to people, say, well, you only have, or you have this much for a budget, and I mean, the call committee could say, well, the salary's negotiable. That was, we didn't know who we were going to be talking to, and that's why we set it the same as the year before when we did. The last year's budget was actually for a full-time pastor. Yes, Lynn.
Richard, just one comment that this is why it's so important. Julie brought up the communication point. The surveys that the transition team is sending out, this is why it's so important that people respond to these surveys, writing additional comments if you need to, things you don't understand, things you want to know more about. The transition team, we only know because of the feedback we get. We only know what to come
Yeah.
back to you with. So please
Right. Right, and that's why this mission exploration team is sending out these questionnaires, is to get information. We sent out 233 envelopes the first time, and as some of you know, there's more than one questionnaire and I think we have like 350 members. We got 50 responses back first time. Yeah, probably it's everybody here, no doubt. And the second questionnaire went out, and as of sometime last week, we had 15 back, and I know there's more upstairs today. I did put together summaries, and I've got them available to hand out. You can see the results of where we are so far, to see if maybe they make sense and maybe they don't, but we got responses, and when you look at the numbers on there, if it says that 50 people, we got 50 back, that doesn't mean that all the numbers add up to 50, because some people didn't answer all the questions, somebody maybe answered twice, some people didn't understand the question, and with one of them that was understandable, it was a little confusing. But getting back to the budget, does anybody else want to say anything? Otherwise, I'd suggest that we use the budget that we had for last year, which was 63,200 for the pastor's salary, and the health and pension was 21,637.
Yeah, because your health could change depending on your pastor. You could have single coverage or family.
Yeah.
So you aren't going to know that until you get the person.
And
The younger the pastor, I think, the younger the pastor, the lower the premium. They pay
Yeah.
as you get older.
Mark, there's two items next to each other. One is it says pastor's paid contribution. Is that off of the pension and insurance?
Don't go by the pastor's paid contribution. Pastor Marla was getting a pension from the church, and she was paying her own pension as well.
Okay.
That had to come out
So-
of the budget.
So the 21,000 is the accurate figure? Okay. So we'd be talking about using the figures 63,200, 63,200, and 21,637.
Wait, whoa. I have a question. I think the 10,000 needs to come off of that because the proposed for 2022 is the 11.
That's what I just asked Mark.
Yeah, her 10,000 is what she paid herself, so.
Well, that was my question, Mark. Does that come off the 21?
Comes out of 21.
It has nothing, no, it didn't work that way. It came off of her salary.
But somewhere came off of her, what she got from us, they came back, 10,000.
That was her catch-up pension.
Yeah, when she paid catch-up.
I think there's a tax advantage, I think, in what she did. I don't know. I
Yeah.
didn't do
Well,
that.
aside from that, what we're doing now, we're trying to figure out, are we supposed to use 21,637 or 10,000 less than that when we prepare the budget now?
21,000.
Okay.
Okay, but then why in the proposed you have 11,007?
It's not,
That, we're taking those numbers out.
what happens is you divert, there's a program where you can divert some of your salary to pour more into the pension. And there's a tax advantage because you don't get taxed on that until you withdraw it, I guess. So the way I'm looking at this 10,000 was not taken out of pension, it was taken out of her salary. Therefore, you'd have to add it to the salary to get an accurate picture of what you got, if that makes sense.
Well,
So it'd be 70.
I guess it doesn't make sense only, and I guess I'm only questioning because the 2021 budget, I get it, it's 21,600. But then on the proposed 2022 budget, you have 11,700. So
yeah.
you
That-
obviously considered the 10,000 out of there. And the actual is 14,400, so.
Pastor Matt is not, we're not paying Pastor Matt's pension right now.
Right.
It all goes right straight to his salary.
Oh, okay. So
That's
Yeah.
salary is inflated because, the pension is included in that.
Well, the concept we're using now is we're just putting numbers in here, the same as last year, essentially, so that when the call committee talks to a new pastor, they'll have something to, some reason to say that's why that's what the amount is.
I have a question for Norm. Norm, you proposed that the church staff, Norm proposed that the church staff had a 6% increase? Is that what you proposed?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That
what I
was what you proposed.
Okay, well, let's take those as two different motions. Okay, the first motion would be to put in the budget or the goals what we had in the budget last year for the pastor's salary and the pastor's pension and insurance. And then it would leave room for the call committee to negotiate. So that would be the motion. Is there Chris, you second it? Yeah. No? I thought you raised your finger. Okay, all right. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign? Hearing none? That's that issue. The last issue then on the budget would be whether or not to, there's a motion. Norm, you made a motion. Somebody did increase the salary for those that say 2% on the budget here, increase it 2%. There are three people. Yep.
Yeah, the motion is the 2%, the 2% go up to 6%.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Yeah, now we discuss it.
What is this cost of living increase that has been put out for employees?
Well, Social Security got 6%.
For 1 year. We're only talking for 1 year right now.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. No further discussion? Yes? Second. Okay, we got a second. Any further discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none. That motion carries, and that should complete the budget. I don't have a new number, but we just call for the question.
Specifically, who we just gave raises to?
Well,
Richard, I have a question then. Is our policy gonna be now that we will be only using volunteers for custodians, or will we be looking to hire a custodian again in the future?
1 year.
1 year
Well-
from when?
well, let's say as of right now, the volunteers are still volunteering and they're doing a good job.
I
So
understand that, but what is the council's goal? Is that gonna be
The council's goal is to keep those volunteers happy. Yeah, yeah.
But what's our, is it the calendar year, or do we have a different year for church?
I would assume Mark pays January 1st to December 31st.
Okay, I'm just asking for clarification.
Yep, yep. Okay, now that we know all the changes, I'll ask for a motion to approve the budget as amended by I think there were 4 amendments that were made. Anybody want to make that motion? I didn't hear who said that, but, okay. Is there a second? Any further discussion on the budget? Now I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Yes.
Because we increased the church staff 6%, does that also mean that Darrell doing cemetery is?
Cemetery separate.
Nothing to do with it. Cemetery separate.
Solely
The,
separate.
the, the committee, the cemetery committee will discuss it and decide.
That's what I mean, Steve,
He did get a raise last year because he hadn't had one for several years, plus he's been mowing the church lawn. So I took care of it. I had a meeting, it was very short.
me, myself, and I,
Yeah.
briefly Darrell.
Good job, Steve.
Did you have a discussion during that meeting?
Yes, I did.
Thank God.
Okay, the next item on the agenda,
I'm sorry, I have a quick comment.
Mark?
Since the, staff has already been paid for January and such, are they supposed to get an increase? Or when does the increase start? Because the 2% started
Next
January.
pay, next pay, this isn't no retro thing.
So it'll be the next.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, the next item on the agenda are the Congregational Records. It's on page 9 for you to just review. Pastor Matt's report is on page 10. Pastor Matt, you want have anything to add to your report? Okay. Building Maintenance and Improvement Report. Anybody have anything to add on that report? It's also on page 11. Nobody speaking up. Okay. Cemetery reports on page 12. Any comments or questions on the cemetery's report? Financial reports, Mark's financial reports are on pages 13 through 15. Are there any questions on the financial reports that Mark presented?
Well, we didn't do the labyrinth thing, but that was new business.
Your new business, you kind of jumped over.
Oh, it's not on the agenda. Okay, yeah, all right. Well, we can just come back to it right now.
Go back to it, but just don't forget.
Okay. Okay, the first item had to do with the concept of the endowment fund is to use the interest that's earned for matters, church matters, let's say, that are outside of our normal budget. And as I indicated, there's somewhat over 16,000 already in the memorial fund towards that expense. I think the current contract on the, is it like 23,000, Lynn, or something in that neighborhood? Okay. So we'd be looking for that difference to ensure that the project gets completed on its original design. And right now there's accumulated over the years like $33,000 of interest in that endowment fund. So there's certainly significant funds to cover that. So that's what item on the agenda. I would make the motion to, I guess I can't make a motion, but I'll ask for a motion, or Bob, making a motion to approve that. John seconded it. Is there any discussion? Any discussion on that motion?
The only discussion I could say is the sooner we decide on this, the sooner we can do it before the cost goes so high.
Yeah, well, Lynn's talking to somebody now, but she can give us a,
Pastor Matt's giving us the raise. Bill was talking to somebody.
I guess it maybe, well, this might just throw a wrench in things. But anyway. Anyway, I was looking at the Synod website, and they had some grants there, and they it's an anonymous donor, but made grants possible, And there were 3 categories. One was evangelism, one was racial justice, which, you know, St. Paul, they're probably really concerned. We all should be, but it's not so much an issue here. And then, I don't know, there was some other one too. And anyway, under the evangelism category, we have managed, I kind of got it started, but with the help of Lynn and some other people, Robin and Linda, who provided some good facts about it. Anyway, we did get the application in on Friday, and they have. I don't want to influence the vote on this because we could still vote for this, but use as appropriately. But anyway, it's possible that you could get a $15,000 grant for each category. Each of those categories, they are giving $15,000 to somebody, and then a number of other more minor grants you might get. So we don't know the outcome. We just got it in, and I think the deadline was Tuesday coming up, and so we got it in. And I saw Justin Grimm, the assistant to the bishop, on Thursday, and he's looking for it. So, and it was originally proposed in a synod-sponsored sort of what was it called in the mission. Kind of a growth thing. Anyway, so he's been kind of in on it, so I don't know if that'll help us or not, but anyway, so that's a possibility, but it's not a reality, and so maybe we should continue with this vote and go ahead with that, and just because if we decide to open that up, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do it, but it's available at least.
Okay, good. Nothing wrong with using grants. So the motion didn't really cover that, but I guess, yeah, right. But I think just maybe to clarify that, or maybe amend the motion to say that would pay for whatever difference between the actual total cost and whatever money we've not received by way of memorials or grants. Yep, Lynn wants to talk.
Okay, we see this labyrinth. When we did the Year of Renewal team, and we've talked about it today, how we need to grow our congregation, we need to reach out to people. And the Year of Renewal team was about how do you engage your congregation, how do you engage your community, how do you reach out and evangelize. We're not very good at evangelizing. Over the years, we've put topics on the table at coffee for people to talk about spirituality and their relationship with God, and we're not very good at following through on that. Evangelism isn't easy, and we've seen this, we've envisioned this labyrinth as a way to reach out to people, including people who are not here today, who do not attend our church, who may not be involved in traditional religion at all anymore, because that is very much a reality in our society right now. The labyrinths have had, they've been around for thousands of years. Interest in them and use of them has seen a great rebirth. People have found this is a way that they can have a spiritual feeling. The fact that it's connected to our church might bring a curiosity about the people who attend here, and I go along with what Pastor Matt said about what you say and do and where your priorities are say a lot about you. And so we felt that, our mission statement
We're a welcoming community. This is a way to draw people in, not just to make them members of our church, but to make them curious about our church, to make them curious about us as a group of people, and allow them to see that we recognize spirituality and a relationship with God comes in many forms. The quote to do the labyrinth is, I don't have a firm figure right now because the contractor was meeting with the supplier, and I need to connect with him on this last week. I didn't connect with him last week to see if there's been price increases, if there's been any changes. But we initially had a bid of about $21,000, and that's high because we're making this all out of pavers so that handicap people have access to this, that a person with a wheelchair, a person with mobility issues can come and use this also. Robin Schnander's family, if anyone's not aware, have made huge contributions to make this a reality. Basically, it was Royce Schnander's idea as we were brainstorming on ways to reach out to the community. How can we do this? Because we're not good at going door to door, and we're not Jehovah's Witness, and I give those people a lot of credit for having the courage to do that. I don't, but I will do something like this, and I can try to promote that. So the costs include the pavers that will make this a smooth, handicap accessible facility. In addition to that, we have benches that we would like to have out there. We have signage that we need to place around town to give directions to where it is. We would like a nice sign that gives some direction out at the labyrinth itself. There might be some minimal landscaping involved. The color pamphlets that we would provide can be done here at church, but that's costly. That involves a cost. And then if we could have a drop box where people could leave comment cards or pick up pamphlets for instructional material. I think our committee has seen great potential. We have the Wild River State Park. We have people driving by here. We used to do services at the park. Doris and I used to go out, and she would sing, and I would give a little presentation, and we don't do that anymore. But we can surely invite people here. We have Wild Mountain that people go by. We have the Apple Festival that people can cross that beautiful little bridge we have to come and make use of our facility, to bringing people onto our hallowed ground to have a spiritual experience. We even have the thrashing show where some people stay there a long time. We could put information down there and invite them to come up here to have a little bit of respite and away from the goings on down there. So I see a lot of potential for us to draw people to this community, but there is a cost involved with all of that. So by the time we're done, we're probably looking at $30,000 or more with everything that goes into it. Seems like a huge amount of money. I know there's been a lot of concerns about, we have other things we need to do, but we are a welcoming community. We need to find ways of reaching out to people. And I would guess if I asked how many people would form a committee to go door to door to talk about Immanuel, I don't think I'd have too many people signing up. So that's the rationale behind this. And so the grant that we have applied for, I'm assuming I guess there are a fair number of applications in already. Most likely the $15,000 grant is going to go to someone who has I guess I can't imagine what the $15,000 grant would go to. And the other grants are smaller than that. So that's a possibility. The passing of the approval of using the endowment interest money would guarantee that we could get the basic labyrinth totally completed. It would be presentable, and anything else we get, any monies we get on top of that would just allow us to have the best presentation, the best face that would bring people back here, and that would have people spread the word of, have you heard about this labyrinth around in Almelund on their property? So I think it's a good thing for us to, good way for us to evangelize.
Thanks, Lynn. I'm sure everybody can see that this is really a good and worthwhile project, and is certainly going to be a indirect benefit to the church, if not a direct benefit. I think, Lynn, were we at the point of calling the question on this? Anybody? Okay. The motion is to use the endowment fund to ensure this project gets completed with the amenities that Lynn was talking about. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. As far as the reports, just look on the agenda, table of contents there. Anybody has a question in any of them? Anybody wants to come up and supplement their report that was submitted? Otherwise, we'll just accept those and make those a part of the report. One other item I guess I put on the new business is to combine the general fund and the benevolence fund checking accounts, just for ease of the accounting for the funds. So if there's a motion to do that. Benevolence. Benevolence and the general fund.
Yeah, but Memorial is in charge of designated and
No.
undesignated.
No.
That's not what that is.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that's what people think, because under benevolence, you're giving to Senate, period.
It is. There's a couple other things there too.
Okay,
But that's just to combine that. It doesn't go to the memorial fund.
what's on the budget?
To account for the dollars. That'll still be separate, but they'll be on the general fund separately
Right.
from the account.
It's just to simplify things. It's not changing anything.
It's not changing the accounting.
Just so that whatever is designated for benevolence goes to benevolence, and not to help pay the bills when we get in the bind.
Right.
It won't change that.
Maybe you need to clarify what benevolence is.
There's,
On page 13, it defines it there for you. Immanuel Lutheran Church benevolences. We have undesignated. We have Synod, Lutheran Social Services, Luther Point Bible Camp, Itonia Companion Congregation in Tanzania, and then World Hunger, which is not a budgeted item, but it is a part of the benevolence. As you can see, we take a lot in for undesignated. That gets distributed to those that don't meet the budget, so that oftentimes the Lutheran Social Services usually makes the budget. The other items don't, so it's just undesignated goes into all those other benevolences to make it all.
everybody see where it is on page 13? There's an inset.
I have a question on that. Yeah, I see page 13. So if it's undesignated, and yet we've met two givings,
Yeah.
we've met everything else, what happens to that undesignated then? Do we use it to pay our light bills?
No.
Well, but if it's going into general, how do we? It's a bookkeeping, okay, it's a line item. Got it.
So,
Okay, you need a motion.
There's one done a long time ago.
Lynn made a motion. Is there a second? Was it Bob made a second? Okay. Any other discussion with regard to this matter? Well, call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. And that covers all the reports, except the last one on there is the Mission Exploration Team. I think you're all aware of that already, what the Mission Exploration Team is. We sent out questionnaires. There are 3 questionnaires. 2 of them have gone out, and there's still 1 to be sent. The first questionnaire, I think I told you before, I had 50 responses. The second one is 15 so far. I've just got the results on these 2 handouts. If you want to come up to the front afterwards and pick up a copy of them to look at. And I think we're going to be putting these results in the monthly newsletters too. With that, any other thing to come before the meeting before we adjourn and have the closing prayer? Otherwise, Pastor, I'm going to give a short closing prayer.
Well, you can remain seated, but let's just close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. The council is going to have a meeting. I'll be over at the table over here. Just take a few minutes. I don't know how to shut this off.